Welcome World is Concrete and Blossom Podcast, and we are still doing our part to create change through conversation. It's your favorite creator and host, Dawn the Doll, and in episode 11, I am so excited to be joined by my podcast sister, Leah of Take Up Space Podcast. This super real Cali native is hella insightful on the topic of freedom of speech, especially in friendship.
Dawn the Doll delivers.
So more and more since the first time I heard you say it, it's like now apparently become a thing. They were listening to our microphones and it's become a thing because I'm seeing this whole female word everywhere now. Like I had never heard that until that episode, and now it's everywhere. I'm like, yo, first of all, oops, because I never knew, and I say it all the time. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, I am using it in a derogatory term, in a derogatory way, as a derogatory term. It's just that in that moment, I'm like, this is a way of being nice, nasty. Because I'm not trying to be like asshole. Like I'm not trying to just like disrespect you, like blatantly. I'm just trying to let you know that I'm not thinking of you as whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like ever since that one episode, that particular conversation just keeps coming up. Like not even on podcasts. I'm like, first of all, I'm about to turn my microphones off because I'm not gonna be able to say shit messing around in a minute.
No, it's so words have meanings and they have context, right? And so it's funny because it's kind of like, you know how you buy your car and then you see your car everywhere. When you're made aware of something, now subconsciously you're looking for it. So I don't even remember when we had that conversation, but ever since then, it's funny to see Mike and Drake go back and forth of just like consciously because I know they're about to say it, but then they change their mind, and I'm like, hey, I'm impacting the world. It's cool.
It's cool.
But I that's why I said, look, like I don't care for it. Like don't refer to me as female. Like I am a female on a checkbox. Like that's my category. But don't dismiss me as a human being. You know what I mean? And so I only had to deal with that because I was in debate so much about, subjugating, dehumanizing, especially women of color. And it's like, no, you give me what I'm owed. Like you want to be treated like a man, right? You want to be treated like a man, not a male. Not that dude. You want to be treated like a man, right?
Give it respect. And it sucks too, though, because for women, I feel like we have so many more names that can be put into those derogatory categories. Because, like, if you say, man, this dude, you know what I'm saying? That nobody's really going to get offended because you call him dude or guy, and male is just not a term that you would use. Unless
it's not used dismissively. Yeah, it's not used dismissively.
Right. So it's sucks too that just as women, we have so many different names that on any given, like you said, any given checkbox, we would have to check it so that we would identify properly. But then as humans, we find a way to then use those. That's why it's like when they say that statement, black females, black women are the most disrespected in the human race, pretty much. That's why. Because if you think about it too, we don't really hear other cultures using the word female like that. I've never really heard any other culture describe women in that sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's like, damn, here we are back again at that. And it kind of like brings it all to such a realization that Black women are the single most disrespected. Like, I understand, and I'm not in any shape, form, or fashion trying to discredit the trauma that Black men have been through, the still trauma that they're going through, the history of it, the mentality of it. I'm not discrediting any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet and still, somehow, Black women, we still get it so hard in the most basic of things, just in how you address us, just the most basic of things, like your work.
Well, the media is doing its job, and it's hard to unlearn some of these things, because the easiest way to learn something, like for instance, if you want to learn Spanish, you go to an area where they're speaking Spanish because it's reinforced over and over and over again. If you want to learn Cantonese, but you are in, let's say, New Zealand, right? It's going to be a little more difficult for you to learn that language. And the media has done impeccably well at like really subjugating women in general and making Black women out to be playthings. So that when we're taken seriously, it's because we are we're too strong to break, and that way you can do whatever you want. Or we are treated like playthings. Like either it's like, how do I want to say it? It's like the smashability, right? So it's like either, oh, she's pretty, I'd smash, or, you know, she wants to be a boss bee or whatever, and, you know, but she's not necessarily smashable, so she's dismissible. And, you know, ain't no man want to be behind a woman that's going to do blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that's the mentality of a weak man. I think that if you have that mentality, you're pretty weak. But it goes back to the importance of women owning who they are and not just regurgitating what the media has told them, even if their parents did not reinforce, or the household that they came from did not reinforce the importance of them owning who they are, for them learning who they are, for them showing the world who they are and having agency and advocating for yourself. Even if they don't have that, it's important that they learn that, and they can learn that from having a community that's going to uplift them. Unfortunately, when you come from an era of Superhead, or you come from an era of Trina, Foxy Brown, Lil' Kim, it's like, yeah, well, they treat them like playthings. Yes, they own their sexuality. I see that. You see that. But in owning their sexuality, they have to be hypersexualized. And by them being hypersexualized, they're treated like playthings. It's like people look at Marilyn Monroe, oh, she's classy, sexy. And, you know, you still you wouldn't just go straight for the smash. You have to wine her, you have to dine her, you have to do this. But if we look at, but Beyonce is not looked at as, oh, yes, I would need to wine her and dine her. No, I just smash. You know, Rihanna is not looked at, oh, you know, I would want to take care of her. I would want to do this. I want to do that. No, I smash or I won't. And so I think that it's important as Black women that we stop. We're not, okay. This is my issue that I've had with Black women, like over as an adult. We're not in competition with each other. That's the thing.
Say it louder for the bitches in the back.
we are not in competition with each other. Like what you want, even if we like the same type of men, even if we have the same type of job, there is plenty of room for more than one at the top. But we create this idea that I have to be so great that other chicks or other women or other people are going to hate on me about how much I have. Like, we look for that validation, and it's not necessary, because, you know, you like who you like, I like who I like. And even if, so say for instance, even if there was a guy, you know, that we were both interested in, it should be an understanding of, look, we either, like, whether whether we're friends or not, it's not a competition for that guy.
Correct.
It shouldn't be a competition for that guy. It shouldn't be a competition for that job. It shouldn't be a competition for that house. You being successful means that I can be successful. Your success does not hinder my success. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, but I think that a lot of times too comes from, like you spoke about validation and competition. And I think that a lot of that stems from us not really knowing how to create our own in the sense of success, especially, right?
Yeah.
You can create validation within yourself. Like if you look, everybody's always on some type of health something, right? And It's always usually fads. But the people who are truly in it for themselves, they get validation in their results. Mm-hmm. Or people who want to be successful. For instance, I just launched my podcast on the 4th of July, 2020. There's people who I've networked with and met up with, like you guys, who've been doing it, maybe not for years, but longer than me. I don't say, oh, dang, well, her podcast has 2 other people that go on and they're amazing when they talk and I don't have anybody, so maybe it's not for me. Or when we look at like Drake's and it's like, oh, he has a whole co-host, they have the whole logo on everything, they have, they stream on all these different platforms. Okay, well, maybe it's not for me because I'm not doing that. So the validation and the competition to me is sometimes because we don't know how to create our own, like truly creating your own lane and realizing that whatever is meant for you is going to be for you. Like if me and you were interested in the same, we're just going to call them chat because that's the first icon I looked at on my screen. If me and Leah are both interested in chat, okay, well, if chat is not meant for Leah, whatever it is, regardless of me, that's going to be friction there. That's going to be tension. It's going to not work for one or the other. Mm-hmm. Just like chat could not be for me as well, even though we both have our eye on them. You know what I mean? I just think that whole competition, like you hit the head on the nail, like there's enough men, there's enough money, there's enough positions, there's enough things that haven't even been tapped into that is probably your lane, but you're so focused on this competition and beating the competition that you don't even really have. Exactly. Like you miss it. You miss that lane.
Yeah, that you're so right. So before I started my podcast, and before I even started, because the podcast came after the business, and I realized like years ago, if I have somebody else, it's great. Like always have a mentor. But if I use someone else's successes as my measuring stick, if I see somebody else's successes as anything more than a possibility, then I'm always going to come up short. Now, you launched your podcast on the 4th. I launched mine on the 7th, right?
This year?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Because I'll be listening to your episodes and I'll be like, oh, that's good. Let me take some notes. Oh, that's good. Let me take some notes. Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but awesome. I mean, I've been talking for forever. So it's just, I've never really recorded anything. And so, I did halfway research and was just like, all right, if I do any more research, I'm going to talk myself out of it. But what I realized was that regardless of what I'm doing, I honestly can't even look at my sisters and put myself against them for success. And when I realized how crazy that was, because I'm just like, my sisters are married or they have kids or they're in relationships, or they're like further along in life than me, or they haven't gotten to where I am. I was like, we come from the same household, but it doesn't make any sense because we've had different experiences. Most of them are military. So it's just like they have, they may have the opportunity to network with people I will never see. So I can't look at them and be like, oh, I got to catch up. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I can't do that. And if I can't do that with my sisters, I most certainly can't do that with people out in the world. So if it's not a camaraderie
motherfuckers, you don't even know.
Exactly. Why would I put myself like that? Is depressing. That is anxiety. That is torture. Why would I put myself in a position to be depressed and stop myself before I even get started? Like, I didn't even give myself a chance to try. And I tell, like, my other sister, she's vlogging now, and I was like, girl, just do it. She was like, well, I saw some other people. No. You can see what equipment other people are using, but you bring something that's so unique and so amazing that you will create your own lane. And I don't know if you're Christian or not, but the Bible says that your gift will make room for you. Your gift cannot make room for you if you're doing somebody else's thing.
If you're not operating in your gifts.
If you're
not unwrapping your gifts.
Right. Your gift is
too busy at there. Right. If you sitting around the Christmas tree and you watching them open their presents over there, but you haven't yet touched one of yours, you're going to be sitting there all Christmas Day until Christmas night like, well, I want the Barbie dream house. Well, I want the Polly Pockets 2 and 3. Well, I want... But you haven't even touched your own. Like, you don't even know what that may look like. And then I think another thing, too, is people don't realize once you even tap in on it, even maybe just scratch the surface, there's work you have to do there.
Oh, yeah.
So you're so busy focusing on all these other things that you think, oh, I would like to do that. Oh, I would like to do that. When you scratch the surface of your own gift, you don't even realize it because you're too focused on what everybody else is doing that you don't realize your gift, your craft, even your talents are still things that you have to practice. It's like one of your episodes that I was listening to, the way you practice is how you'll play. I don't know if that was the name of it, but that was the message of it. And I loved it because it's just like, that's so true. And that's the thing people don't understand. If, girlfriend, you might not know that you know how to do hair bomb as hell and that you could be the next whoever, right? Because you're so busy over here worrying about these eyelashes because you think everybody want to get their eyelashes done right now. So you never took that time to network over there, to deal with other people who opened up their shops, to deal with other people who have done multiple techniques in the same cuts or whatever it may be. And it's like you still, even if it's your gift, like you actually have to spend time with it. You have to nourish it. It's just like a plant. It's not going to grow unless you feed it. If you don't give it that sunlight every day, it's missing something. If you don't give it that water every other week, it's missing something. If you don't repot it when it gets to a certain size, it's missing something.
Girl, you better preach. You better preach.
And that also brings to mind how it's weird to me how so many people are coming around. Like, I know for myself, I stopped saying bitch when it comes to my friends and I say sis now, right? That was an easy switch. And so they only get the bitch if it's like, bitch, let me tell you something. Bitch. Or, it's kind of more one of those joking things, but in a normal casual, it's not like, bitch, let me tell you about such. Or bitch, it's always sis, right? And it reminds me, it's like people are coming around to that. But it's like people can't shake the mentality of just because Leah's doing a podcast and her shit is jumping and she got 45 subscribers already on YouTube, she started after me. I got 19. So am I supposed to give up because Leah got 45 and I got 19? No. You know what I mean? Like that means that, hey, let me get with Leah and either see what she's doing. But then this is what I'm getting at. People do that, right?
Right.
I'm not out here on my podcast for followers. I'm out here because I have a message that I want the world to hear. Then followers gonna come. Now they might not come for a while, but they gonna come.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people forget that just because you just started or just because this person's doing the same thing and they are doing really successful, that has nothing. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China in your world? Like, what does that mean to you besides that's someone who's gone before you that now you can use as a resource? Because some of those same downfalls and some of those same barriers that they went to, maybe now you don't have to go through them because you could be using them as a resource. You know what I mean? You could be using them as a mentor. But instead of seeing each other as people who can help each other,
Right.
We always see each other as competition.
And I can't like I can't look at, you know, what somebody else has been doing for, you know, a year and a half, not knowing how much stress they were probably under, trying to figure out how to make it work, what equipment to use, where to start, who to go to, what groups to join, you know, things like that, right? And it's more important for me to look at, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish? Like, and that's one of the things that I talk about in an upcoming episode is knowing your why. Why it's important to understand your intention, because intention matters, because that's where your energy is going to follow. And when you don't have the right intentions of doing, so I want to start a podcast because everybody else is doing a podcast, and I feel like people want to. Like, I wish I had the arrogance of some people who are just like, yeah, everybody's doing it, so I'm going to do it. And it's just like, but you literally have nothing to say. You run out of content after the 5th episode. You run out of ideas. You don't network with people. You pay for followers. You know, you try to cheat the system. And it's like, no, it's gonna chew you up and spit you out. But when you're authentic, it's not about the number. And I tell people who are engaging with me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, it's when people are just like, you know, sub for sub. And I'm like, I don't mind, you know, subbing to yours as long as I check the content first. I can't just give somebody subs because it's some wild people out there. but
I had to go unsub a couple after I listened to what you was talking about. It's like, no, I don't even want my name. I don't want nobody associated me with that.
Mm-mm. I make sure that, okay, I can sub to yours. I don't mind that. I don't mind even listening to yours. But the thing that's most important is engagement. So, you know, I would prefer you, even if you didn't subscribe, listen to a full episode. Or even if you don't follow, you know, share it on your page with a friend, or comment on one of my posts. Like, the engagement, to me, I would rather have 100 fully engaged people than 1 million passive consumers, because you can monetize off of that 100, because they're engaged with your content. They know who you are. They're all for your brand. They support you 100%. They will follow you on Patreon. They will follow you on your free stuff. They'll make sure that they tell their friends about you. But that 1 million who are passive consumers, no, they don't. They'll see a picture, and if it's not something that they agree with, they just move on. That's it. So you know, as you start, and I'm like, that's why it's cool now. You start building now as your village is small. Set a solid foundation, and when you set a solid foundation, that's when you start getting your resources. You start, you know, entering the groups like the group that we have. You start talking to other people who's been in it longer. You start looking at how you can start to expand, not just expanding for the sake of expansion, but eventually it's going to get bigger. What do you want this to look like on a grand scale? So I set up my email. I set up my, because it's under my business name, Champions of Discourse. And for those who want to check it out, championsofdiscourse.com. It's, you know, I set up the website, set up the email. I set up the services if people want to chat about it. I like set up guests. I do my next. I'm always working on my next step. And so taking that time to really see what has, because you've accomplished a lot in the last 30 days. So congrats to you. You've accomplished a lot, girl. Like you out here doing it. And, you know, and even listening to your podcast, you sound so authentic, and it's so cool that you want to bring in so many people who other people may not otherwise have access to it. Like I was listening to, I think it's called Brothers and Banks. That was called
Brothers with Bank.
Yes, Brothers with Bank. And it's just like,
shout out to Travis Smith of Houston's own Funnel Bar. Y'all go check him out. Make sure you get your pre-orders in. Gourmet funnel cake experience. It's amazing. And they do catering. So if you have an event, make sure y'all hit them up. That's episode number 2.
Funnel cakes. Who's what? But it's such an idea. You know what I mean? That you wouldn't think, but people are just really. That's why your gift is definitely going to make room. And so when I started looking at people as resources instead of competition, when I start wanting to partner with other women, and there are women who don't like me. There are women who are because I seem arrogant, or I seem confident, or I seem cocky, or I seem too aggressive, and I'm too this. You're always going to be too much of something for somebody. And but they're not, everybody's not supposed to go. You know what I mean? So as long as you're growing, even if it's by 1 follower a day or by 1 more engagement than you had the day before, and you're just slowly moving up the mark, you know what I mean? It's just that consistency, and that, and Kevin Hart said it best. It took him something like 10, 15 years to be an overnight success.
Yep. To be that headliner. Yep.
To be an overnight success. Years, decades to be an overnight success. And I mean, I'm not, I don't think that, I think that it's great when you're a part of a community that allows you to push forward and gives you the encouragement and want to big you up, want to help you out, want to get you connected. And that is more important than having all the followers in the world.
Absolutely. I think too, a lot of times I'm just trying to figure out in the Black community what in itself makes us so inclined to hate on the next Black thing, or the next Black person, or the next Black idea, given where we stand in America. You know what I mean? Like, we are the most hated race across the globe, not even just in America. Because when the whole pandemic thing started, I have quite a few friends over in China, somewhere I'm supposed to be right now. I have quite a few friends over there. So that even that whole ordeal, just based on the color of our skin, not even just Black Americans, right? But like Black people because of the color of your skin, period. We're like the most hated race, but yet here in America, specifically here in America, we hate each other so much. Like, that's all we see when we look at most of each other is competition. And it's almost just like, again, what words were you told growing up? What words did you hear about yourself? What words did you hear about other Black people? Like, what is giving us this sense of competition and this sense of, oh, if they're doing it, I can't do it. Or if they're doing it, I have to do it in a way that's going to cancel them, since we're in this climate of canceling people right now. Right. Whatever I do, I got to make Concrete and Blossom where it's going to cancel all these other podcasts. Well, no, I'm going to rethink this. How about Concrete and Blossom is a place where all of them can come together and blossom through this concrete together type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you really wonder, like, because we know it's not just broken Black households. We know that there's not just horrific and traumatic things going on in the Black household. But as we become adults, like, where do you even get to draw the line in? All right, now it's time for you to stop seeing your other Black females as competition. Like, when are you going to start actually just seeing them as females who could actually just help you out? Because every Black woman is not walking around here with a bad attitude. Right. Or every Black woman who isn't walking down the street grinning from ear to ear looking crazy. Because if you think about it, if you walk around just smiling from ear to ear, you're probably going to look crazy. Like, you're not on the phone, you're not with nobody, you just walking around smiling and shit. You're probably going to look crazy. But it's like, where do you think that comes from? You know what I mean? Like, just in the Black community, why we see the Black community as such competition. Because we talk about it all the time in the other groups too, where even some of us, like, I don't live in a Black neighborhood here in Dallas. I don't live in a Black neighborhood at all. Now, am I scared to go live in a Black neighborhood? No. Does my family still own property there? Yes. And there are our family living there. I just don't happen to live there, right? But it's like, I don't live in a Black neighborhood. I'm about to move back to a Black neighborhood, though. You know what I mean? It's like, where do you think that comes from as far as why we see our own community in such a light? besides the systematic stuff, right? Systemic stuff. Like, I get that. But we're in 2020. So for me, it's hard for me to still hold people and give people that room as I gave them even maybe 2010. Because we in 2020 now. Like, what's y'all same excuse? Y'all, everybody who said they didn't know better in 2020, y'all goddamn know better now. Like, absolutely know better now. So, why you still not posting, sis? You still not reposting? Even the free shit. Like, I have friends of mine, and this is no slug to any of my friends who may listen to this episode, but I have friends of mine. My podcast is free to listen to on all platforms. My podcasts are free to call into on the few platforms I have call-in. I got friends that haven't subscribed, haven't shared my shit, haven't listened to my shit. Okay. You know what I mean? But
Commercial break pause with Concrete and Blossom Podcast. What up, everyone? It's Dawn the Dog, creator and host of Concrete and Blossom Podcast. And if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's everything you need in one place. It's free. You record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute it for you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Make money with no minimum listenership required. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to Concrete and Blossom Podcast on all listening platforms.
where do you think that comes from?
I feel like you need to define friend because there are people who we allow in our circle, but they're just there to have the popcorn and listen in. And then when you start to blow up, they be like, I was in the room too. I was there. I did the thing.
Oh yeah, I was with her when she was recording that episode.
Oh yeah. But I think that it, so a couple things to unpack there. So time is relative, right? Mm-hmm. Time is relative. It's been it's been 10 years from 2010 and people say they didn't know, but we have like a whole new generation that's coming up, right? We can look at systemic, like things that are in place that keep putting us in the same light. But there's always this clear line we try to draw between us and them. Like there's this otherization, this otherizing of other people, of like, well, yeah, we're the good blacks, you know, we're not those blacks. And I think that really comes from a sense of wanting to be accepted, a sense of assimilation, a sense of, you know, wanting to live out the quote unquote American dream, right? Which is funny because we talked about what that looks like on Sunday. But for Black people specifically, what does that American dream look like? But I think that creating this otherization, because when in the 90s, when you had Black people who were paraded on the screen as criminals and thugs, when you had Black people who were on the news paraded nightly, and so you look at every Black man as a threat. Like, I got brothers, I have cousins, I've never looked at them as anything other than, oh yeah, that's my brother. Oh, that's my cousin or whatever. But to think about other people seeing them as a threat, when I'm just like, oh snap, like that's how other people, you know, see you. But I think that it comes from a place of wanting to do better. You have to want to adjust your mindset. You have to want to get out of this poor man's mentality of, you know, if there's only one ticket to the show. There's only one ticket. I'm the only one who can get it, and it's not enough for me to win. I have to make you lose, and that mentality hurts our community so much. Where it's like I have to tell, like I can't just be number one, and I'm not. You know, Beehive, don't come after me. But if y'all give him free publicity, you know, do so. But I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan. Like she has some decent bops or whatever, right? But when she came out with the song and she's not the only one. She's just the one that I can think of right now. This song called Bow Down, right? And it's something like bow down beast, like I'm the one, or whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. And so the sentiment pretty much is like, y'all gonna bow down to me because I'm the top.
I'm Beyonce,
right? Yeah. And it's like, you did your work, and that, because I don't think that song is necessary for Beyonce, because Beyonce has achieved what she has achieved because her brand has uplifted her to do so. Mm-hmm. And she has worked really hard she's done the work to build her brand. She has the people around her. She does the things, right? But I think that having that mentality, that's an example of, it's not enough for me to win, because she's winning. She's Beyonce. She's winning. But it's not enough for her to just win. Other people have to, you need to understand what your role is in my life, right? Y'all supposed to bow down to me, and people, and there's other women using that as anthem. So the media does a really good job, like I said, of teaching that, and we don't take the time to unlearn. Like when the guys on the call had to who was it? It was G-Jack, who was just trying to figure out like why I didn't like the term female, like why, like trying to make it make sense. But as soon as it clicked to him, he understood, because he took the time to process what the impacts are, what the implications are, of what they're saying, and why they're saying it, right? And same with the other guys. And I told them, I said, I'm not telling you to change your speech. I'm just making you aware of how it makes me feel. Mm-hmm. If you address me as that, but it's not what you call me, it's what I answer to. So even if you did try to, and because I've told you already, even if you tried to disrespect me and call me that, I wouldn't answer to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that having a mentality to unlearn and try to learn a way to help us grow in self-awareness, help us grow in agency. Like, some of the stuff we say about ourselves, like, like, I couldn't believe, like, when I never understood, and I had to call other women out on this, because don't call me a B. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Don't call me that. It's not my name. I don't care how much friends we are. If you're really my friend, you don't need to call me that. But when you have things like Basketball Wives, boot camp, marriage boot camp, the Love and Hip Hop series, and all these other things that are reinforcing negative relationships and tearing people down, because it's not enough for me to just win. I have to make you lose. When you have different things in the media that are reinforcing that in our community, we see that as, I have to do that thing. And because I have to do that thing if I want to win. I have to be like this person. I have to take on this mentality. And so I think that once people start unlearning those behaviors and how negative and drama filled and all that kind of stuff, because I used to go around saying, like, I didn't want to be friends with women because they caused too much drama. But it wasn't that they caused too much drama. Some of the women, when I really tried to understand it, some of the women who would try to befriend me, it wasn't necessarily that they caused drama. I don't like wearing dresses all the time. I'm not what you would consider a girly girl. Mm-hmm. If it's hot, yes, I'll put on a dress because it's hot. I don't want to wear pants. But I mean, there was a point where I was like jeans and sneakers all the time, jeans and sneakers, and I have a lot of male friends. And so some women would look at me and say that, she's a slut, she's a hoe, she's this, she's that. She got to be smashing them, and she just keep a dude and all this kind of stuff. And then other women who would approach me want to approach me to try to doll me up or girl me up. Oh, girl, you got to wear makeup. You got to do this. Oh, do this with your hair, and do this with your clothes, and do this with da da da. And I'm just like, okay, before you can try to tell me what to do with my life, why don't you get to know me? Mm-hmm. Like, maybe there's a reason why I like wearing baggy jeans. Maybe there's a reason why I don't want to be seen, which is what I use my clothes to hide from. Mm-hmm. Like maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's some things that I need to work through. Don't just think that you have to be, Captain Save 'em and think that, if you did this, if you did that, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like there were just those instances of those women in my life who wanted to come in and try to like, I'm going to get you a purse for your birthday. And I was like, and I would give it right back.
Right.
Don't do that. You don't know me.
Doing the purse. Right.
you don't know me. You do not know me. No, the only people who. Huh?
I was going to say that's one of the things too, though, is that it's so draining in the Black community right now is by what we allow ourselves to continue letting to be our representation. Like all those shows that you named, I think that they could have such a better pretense. Like they could be representing so much more value of the Black family, of the Black friendships, of Black relationships, all those same platforms.
No.
Right. And that's the thing.
That does not make sales. Girl, no. I'm telling no. You are in Neverland. That is
La La Land, right.
Not real. They are there to make money. They stage these things. They want people to act a certain way. They provoke people. There's not this. But a lot of those people, they have other successful businesses, which is why I have a problem with those shows, because you guys are successful. Like behind closed doors, you may go through a bunch of drama with your friends, like everybody does. You may go through shit in your relationship, everybody. Like you may go through those things, but the fact that, like you said, they're staged, right? Like we know this shit is for TV. Like a lot of this may be little bitty things that then they find out about and then they blow it up for TV because that's what's gonna bring ratings and money, right? And again, that's like my problem with those shows is the fact that y'all as Black people, like y'all saw where we, and that's I guess like when the time relevance, like you mentioned, comes back into play for me. All y'all motherfuckers have been on this Love and Hip Hop shit for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like you mean to tell me in the 10 years that you've been doing this, your other businesses are not so successful to where you can't change that narrative publicly, if nothing else. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you out of the show.
Absolutely, but even the Black people who are creating these shows is what I mean. Like, why does this have to be our narrative? Because it's creating a narrative because
money.
It does.
Nobody wants to see people be happy. No, that is ultimately.
I'm not paying to see your goddamn happiness when I still live in the hood.
What?
Right. Because the homegirl down the street still dealing with Tyrone when Kirk and Rashida, because everybody knows that whole thing, right? Like multiple seasons, he did multiple fucked up shit on their marriage. And so did Shiv Haley, but whatever. That's
their storyline. That's there's no arc in it. It's just, okay, who's gonna mess up this season? Oh, okay, cool. All right. So you want to think that we would use this opportunity to build more positive images for us, but that don't make no money. They doing the same minstrel show, the same two-step, the same shuffle kick step that was done before. And it's like, oh yes, boss. Let me go ahead and show you what you think you want to see. Because let's be real, we are only less than 20% of the population,
right?
So we're not the only ones consuming this. Mm-hmm. So they don't necessarily just make it for us.
Right.
Let's be very clear about that.
Yep.
They don't
go,
and we don't.
Y'all get out here and act like coons so we can get these ratings up. We gonna get y'all a check. We gonna get you a check, but it's gonna cost you some coonering.
But that's what happens when you don't have so I had to make sure that I had standards. And if nothing else, I've learned from I think it was Dave Chappelle who made the statement, have a number. And once you hit that number, just like when you gamble, just like when you do anything, when you're willing to take risk, have a number. And once you hit that number, walk away. But so many people get trapped into this thing of just like, I gotta be gluttonous and consume as much as I can. I don't know how long this is going to last. No. Once you have a number, walk away. In all honesty. But so many people don't have that wherewithal to create those kinds of standards, because they're like, I have to keep doing this because I don't know how long it's going to last. And then they end up in these cycles on different TV shows doing the same thing, creating the same image. And then you have Braxton, what's her name? Tamar Braxton, who comes out with a whole, like, look, being on TV was bad for my mental. I'm going through a healing right now because it took so much away from me. And it's like, it's doing a lot of damage. And these stories are going, it's like, it's unspoken. I'm just like, I have no idea why people are not, I know why people are not speaking out about this, because they want to keep cashing those checks. Because when you grow up poor, and just like Mace grew up poor, signed a $20,000 contract or whatever, got his money, and does not own any of his music. But it was a lot of money at the time. You don't know what you're supposed to do. But it's important to educate yourself and to make sure that you're around people who have those resources to help you see past the end of your nose. Because if you go into a room and they give you, it'll always happen. You'll be given an opportunity that seems too good to be true. And you always have to have people who are like, man, I've seen this before. I already know what's going on. Don't accept this one.
Kind of like this, kind of like the blessing circles that people are so hype about right now.
Let's turn your 100 to 800. I'm just like,
you give me 100 today, and in a month from now, I'm gonna give you 1,400. And then when you get that 1,400, you give it back to me, and in a month, I'm gonna give you 11,000 type shit. And a couple of my friends, I'm just like, nope, I heard about it. I'm good on it. They have framed it up in all different types of ways to make Black people feel like these are small term loans and interest-free loans and all kinds of stuff. And it's just like, y'all, first of all, let's just think about this. What sense does it make that you're going to give somebody $1,000 and they're going to give you back 10? Like, right? Like, that just doesn't even make any sense. And it's almost just like, I think my biggest issue now is holding the people my age and older, because I can only go for my age, right? Like, here's where I'm at. So if I feel like if I could somehow get my hands on these resources, somehow get my hands on these type of people, somehow, et cetera,
yeah.
People my age and older, those are the ones where the time relevance is more impactful, I guess you could say. Because, like, I work with middle schoolers, right? So, of course, like, my middle school girls tell me all the time how I remind them of Cardi B. Now, loud? Yeah, that's me. I talk really fast, so, like, if you get me going, I'm going to get going with my point, and I'm going to tell you what I feel, and I really don't take a breath. It's just that's how I kind of talk or whatever. But as far as character, it's like I can be furthest from this person, right? So when we think about, like, the younger generation and how they are associating things today, is like where I have to hold, again, let's just say 80s and above or 80s and older, to a more weighted sense of accountability, because we see what's coming down the pipeline. We see that throughout this time, how it's just gotten worse and worse and worse on these TV shows. How they just keep regurgitating this same toxic storyline on these shows. How you have friends, for instance, when we talk about basketball race, you have friends who have been friends for years before they even became famous. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole Shawnee and Tammy deal. The fact that these people are not even friends anymore should tell you something. You know what I mean? Like now all of a sudden all this stuff is showing you their character. But before all this stuff, their character was perfect for you to call them a friend. So it's like I just feel so much more accountable. Me personally, I feel more accountable knowing what these other, what they have to look up to in the media. So in real life, I can't get my nails done. Like, I'll show you pictures of when I got my nails done, let's just say even 5 years ago before I became a teacher. The long, blinged out nails and all that, that was me. I worked in an industry where I was in an office by myself. That wasn't a big thing. It didn't take away from my professionability or my professionalism and all that kind of stuff. So I did that. When I became a teacher, I saw very, 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 very quickly, yo, sir, we need some natural looking nails. We need to cool it down with the, like you just, it's almost like it's that, like you said, the want to be better, the want to see different.
Right.
And I just feel like it's kind of mind-boggling for me because I feel like there are so many Black people who have come into that life of wanting that change. And so now it's just like, maybe they just don't know how to get there, or maybe they feel, I just can't help but to feel like so many Black people feel like it's a financial thing. And that's not the only place we're lacking.
And I think that it's more of a resource thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because one thing that people have the same of is time. Everybody has the same amount of hours in a day, but the difference is that there's so many different things that, like, there was a question. Carlos Miller of 85 South Show posted, "How long does it take you to make $200?" And there was this long thread. Some people said, "Oh, I can probably get it by the end of the week." Another person was like, "Oh, I can make that in 2 hours." Another person was like, "Oh, I'll make that in 30 minutes." Another person was like, "Oh, if I work really hard and my tips are good, I can probably get that in 2 weekends." And it's just like everybody is seeing how they have to utilize their time to make $200. $200 is not necessarily difficult to make, but when you see what resources people have in order to get to money, because they see it's valuable. When they get to money, it's kind of people think it's discouraging. They're like, man, like, what is it that you do for work? What am I doing wrong? Maybe I lack the skills. Maybe I lack the resources. Maybe I don't have access, right? But I think that it's more than just about money. It's about, because when there is a will, there is a way. One thing my dad has always said is people are always going to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And if they want to do something, they will find a way to get it done. So if a person wants to show up for you, come hell or high water, they will show up. You do not have to beg anybody for anything. At the same time, if a person wants to be better, it's not that they don't know. They may not know how. Like, I didn't know how to start a podcast. Mm-hmm, I didn't know how to, I kind of knew how to, I knew how to start a business. I knew how to set it up. I did not know what a business plan was. I mean, I knew what a business plan was, but I never did one before. And so, I did one at 3:30 in the morning. I couldn't go to sleep. So I was like, let me go ahead and do a business plan. I think I registered for the business 2 days later. And then I got the website 2 days after that, set that up. And I was just like, okay, let me research. And so I'm doing the thing that I need to do. Other people may not may know that they need to do better, but grinding is all they know for that $7.75 an hour, for that $10.75 an hour, for that, $15, $20 an hour. And that's all they know how to do. And they're comfortable in that lane. Mm-hmm. And I almost called it a struggle, but for a lot of people, it's not a struggle, because if you're making $20 an hour, you live at home with your parents, you don't really have a struggle to live. But right. But make it whatever you make, and not being and some people don't know how to manage it. Some people don't know how to some people don't know how to manage it. Some people don't know how to some people are waiting for that next break. Some people are begging for the opportunity. Maybe they're looking for a second job because they don't know how to manage what they have. And so I think that it comes more, it's not necessarily that they don't know how to do it. It's just that they don't have the, I think that it comes from discipline, self-awareness, and that inner want. Because regardless of when, like, think about the last time you wanted to quit something and you had to talk yourself out of quitting. Mm-hmm. You wanted to accomplish that thing more than you wanted to quit. You didn't know how it was going to get done or what it was going to look like, but you knew you wanted to accomplish that thing. And it's the same mentality across the board. Some people are just natural quitters. They just, look, let me start this and I'm going to stop. Let me start this and I'm going to stop. And if you feel like I'm attacking you right now, no, I'm attacking myself too. Because this is like the first thing that it's not the first thing, but I tend to start a lot of projects without seeing them through to completion. Mm. And
that comes with self-awareness though too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people start stuff without that self-awareness. And then you mentioned it earlier too, which was really good. The why, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing it? For me, my podcast is because I have a hard time delivering my messages. It could be the best message somebody could receive, but because of my delivery, they miss it. So for me, my podcast is not only a way to create a space so I can be unapologetically me, and deliver my message, but also because it allows me that time and space on topics like this, where when I listen back, I'm probably gonna be like, girl, why was you screaming at Leah? Leah was on your side. Why you screaming at her? Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's my why, you know? And I think that you hit it head on the nail. That self-awareness piece of it is like, are you aware who you could be? Like, you a hustler, yeah. But are you aware that you could be so much more than this little $7.75 hustler, or it is waiting on somebody to come get your drugs or drink or pills or whatever else, you know, that type of hustling. I just mean, like, you could be so much more because that same time that you're doing that, you could be reinvesting that into yourself. But again, it's the money piece. I wish that we as Americans, because that money doesn't only hurt Black people. There's white poor people. There's Mexican poor people too.
Yeah.
They're not highlighted, especially right now. But there are. They would do just as good as us with. And man, I'm gonna go and reactivate a very old Facebook page that I haven't been on in years, because when I was in college, and I graduated in 2010 from college. When I was in college, I posted. So this had to be like 07, 08, maybe 09, but I'm thinking it was probably like 07 or 08. And I posted, it was like, and I was living in Houston at the time, and I posted, I was like, if one day for just 24 hours from 0001 to 11:59 p.m., 23:59, if all of the city, just the city, because at this time, it wasn't a racial thing, right? If just all of the city decided to not do anything monetarily, like nothing, don't go to no ATMs, don't get no gas in your car, anything that's going to cost you money, whether it be a card, cash, even credit, none of that. Like, just don't do anything financial. Like, what would that really do to the American dollar? You know? And it's like that even today. Look at where we are. We probably have more debt than any other country in the world.
Yeah.
Any other country in the world, but we're considered the land of the free. We're considered, what do they call us? When they talk about America, they always say, not free world, but they like other places refer to us as this like pedestal type place to be, right? They come here for the American dream, quote unquote, whatever. Yeah. But it's just like, but our dollar, what if, like, fuck y'all's dollar. Like, really, fuck y'all's dollar. Who even made that up? It's a piece of paper. First of all, I can go get this shit off the trees. Money grows on trees. I don't know who told y'all it didn't, but it's paper. They derive paper from what? You know what I mean? It's almost just like the American dollar and the way that people chase after it and the way that people feel without it, we can't do anything, which is true here in America, no matter how much we want to ignore it or not, right? Like, I'm not an idiot. I got to pay my rent in cash every month or whatever. But it's just like, man, so many people chase this American dollar. So many people are chasing after this thing called money that they forget about everything else. Going back to like the people on these shows, you guys legit have other successful businesses where you could, instead of getting these ratings on TV by acting a clown and making us look like coons, you could be, why don't you start a TV show or get on some type of network where they're actually talking about how to start new restaurants, talking about how to start new hair shops, talk about just how to start a business in general. Like, there's so much other stuff that, how do you go through those difficult times in marriage behind closed doors like it should be, and then come out on the other side? That took work. That took communication. It wasn't just, oh, I woke up and just decided I choose my family. No, sis, that took you a lot of nights of crying, tears, communicating with this person. Maybe not communicating in the best way with this person, but what did that look like? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying let's ignore all the bad stuff. We know it's there. But for you guys and for Black people, I feel in 2020 to still be doing it in a way that is so counterproductive to where we need to be. You know what I mean? It's just, it's insane.
I hear you. And just because I watched this documentary on how money is made, money has cotton in it. That's why when you put it in a washing machine, it doesn't rip up.
Oh, it don't. Oh,
yeah. So there's other materials in money than just paper. But even if it wasn't the dollar, it would be something else that people are chasing, that resource to that they see as a key to their life. Because what do we see? What do we see on TV? People are always talking about money. People are always talking about, having the money, having the power, having the fame. That's what they want: money, power, fame. But it's at this point, because you and your ideas are more like big picture, like grand scheme of things. Like, let me look at this. But a lot of times these ideas are best started at the grassroots. So starting off at home, starting with yourself, because had I not been, and this is the crazy thing, and I was telling a friend of mine this, had I come to this group and it been like every other group of, and I think I've told y'all this before, as an adult, I don't really have, when I was in the Bay, I had a mixed group of friends. I was friends with a little bit of everybody. Everybody was mixed. Everybody was together. It was a very communal sense of everything, right? Once I left the Bay, it became very segregated. I was so spoiled in the Bay, I did not know that people were still segregated in different areas. So you have the poorer white neighborhoods, the richer Black neighborhoods, the middle income Latinx neighborhoods, the Asian communities, the Middle Eastern communities. Everybody was kind of like in their own sect, right? And so I wasn't really aware, but other people would tell me, even though like I'm Black, I wasn't really welcomed in. I can come to the barbecue, but I got to stand by the gate in case anything, I'll be the first one kicked out pretty much. Like they always expect me. But coming to this group, I've been able to authentically be myself. I've been able to I was able to be honest about, who I am without fear of rejection. And that came from a lot of growth, a lot of validating myself. Like, this group of people, very articulate, very knowledgeable, very sure of who they are, but willing to listen to counterpoints. And respect them. Yes. And so even if we disagree, it's respectfully, like, I hear you, but I don't agree. And that's one of the parts of like different groups that I miss out on. And coming to this group, had I not been authentically me and just had spoken up and had not said anything about not liking being called female, like, call me a woman, call me a lady, call me Leah, because that's my name. You know, you don't have to just say, well, that female over there, I don't want to be dismissed. I have an issue with being ignored. That's just me.
Right.
I don't like it. But it literally came from me just being honest in who I am. I just said, let me just ask y'all a question. Why do you say female?
Mm-hmm.
Because you say rapper and then you say female rapper. And then it's like, so rapper is automatically seen as male. And then you have to put female rapper. And so when they were talking about it, it was like, well, and I said, I can understand categorically speaking. They're like, that's how we're using it. Okay. I just wanted to get an understanding. Right. And then it opened up the conversation to, well, what do you think of the word? You know, do you find it offensive? Or, you know, because it's seemingly innocuous, right? But that's just in certain contexts. On paper, it makes sense to feel like that way, right? It makes sense. I can use that.
Thinking about how you use it, because again, when you first said it, I mean, whenever that first started, I was on that call, remember? And I was just like, what? Like, girl, we got so many other names that we can be fighting against. Like, I say it all the time. And then it's like, but then I do be like, man, look, these females swear they did it, or it's always in a, it's typically, I won't say always, it's typically when I use that word when describing another woman or another group of women, it is used derogatorily. And although I can dress it up and say, oh, it's just my way of being nice, nasty, and you better be lucky you didn't get called bitch. It's like, you might as well. You might as well.
Because my thing is like, say what you mean, right? Like, if you want to call me out my name, be bold enough to do it. You don't have to.
Y'all check out her latest episode. Say what you mean what you say. Stop the chain.
It's legitimately it's legitimately trying to. Why are you trying to save face? If you want to be nasty to me, be nasty to me. Don't sit here and dress it up cute, because I'm gonna tell you to your face what I really think about it. Right. And if I didn't have that agency, if I didn't have that advocacy or that self-awareness, we would have never had that conversation. They would have never known. Right. But I think that a lot of people get comfortable in chasing after what they think they're supposed to have. But when we have things like, I mean, because we could say, oh, because of lack of money, because of lack of this, because of lack of that. Right. I don't think that it's necessarily lack of it. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think that it's solely lack of money.
Solely, like that. Right.
I don't think that it's solely lack of money. But when we have this mindset of, well, we're poor, so we can't move forward. But if you, as a teacher, as an educator, as an active person in your community, can effectively, even if it's one kid, get into their head that, look, I know people tell you sky's the limit. You don't even have to shoot for the sky. You just trying to shoot to do better than the last generation. That is what you're trying to look at what they did. Now go further than that. Because if you've never seen, if you don't know, like if you're not walking around the house and you don't see your parents' diplomas or degrees on the wall, if you don't see your parents as a distinguished person that is respected in their job, if you don't see your parents as someone who loves what they do, or that or people in your community who do more than just go to work, go home and pay bills, then you're essentially growing up with this mindset of, I have to get money because that's the way I'm gonna get out of here. And it's like, no, if you have access to resources,
you don't even have to have some money.
Yeah, as long as if you can sit in the, like, I would rather sit in the room with people who are spitting game, real game about how to play this and what resources to gather. How do I stack my money? What do I do if I only have a budget of $3,000 a month? What do I do if I get into a bind? What do I sell off first? How do I protect myself before I need to protect myself? You know, legally, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically. How do I do those things, right? And if you don't have, and the only way, really, I think the most effective way to do that is when you see people just like you were just like, well, no, I really want to hear what what Leah has to say. Like, why does she think this way? What does she do? Like, how does she do? Having that curiosity is going to propel you much further than if you were given $1 million. Because if you were given $1 million, you would squander it just like you did that $10 last week. Right? But we think that if we get money, it's going to make a difference. No, we have to fix our mindset. And I'm not saying this looking down on anyone who doesn't have, because yes, it would be so much easier if you can send your kids to daycare for free, or if somebody would take care of, certain bills to alleviate that from your pile. Mm-hmm. But it's more about your mentality and where you want to be in 5 years. In 5 years, if you want to make sure that you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, you got to set some stuff in motion now so that you have a bank of savings, so that you have different streams of income, so that you have different resources to pull from. Well, this resource died, that resource dried up, this person got into somebody with I have nothing to do with, but they stopped talking to me, but I still have 5 of the resources to pull from. And making those constant connections, we have to unlearn this crab barrel mentality of wanting to keep the next person down. We have to look at, like, when I see you doing, I was like, oh snap, she got a new episode, let me go ahead and post, because it costs me nothing. You're not taking away from any of my followers.
They're not going to unsubscribe from you to go listen, just to listen to mine on the same platform. Right.
No, we need to all win, because if we're all winning, I would absolutely love, like, it was so dope. Like, I was talking to my niece and she's 6, and for her to be like, we have to support Black, like, out of nowhere, we're talking about, I think we're talking about doing something, and she was just like, yeah, we have to support Black businesses. And I was just like, well, all right, sis. Her little fist was up, and I was like, okay now. And because her mom's a business owner, right? And so they purposely, they make a conscious effort. Like the family as a whole, they make a conscious effort to make sure they're supporting Black businesses and teaching the kids to support Black businesses. So when you have that mentality that's ingrained in you, you don't have to unlearn stuff. But as we are adults, we have to unlearn what's the easy route. Yeah, it's easy. Like, we don't have Black grocery stores as many out here that are close, but we have we have Black barbers. We have Black nail techs. We have Black cosmetologists. We have Black orators. We have Black teachers. We have Black therapists. There are so many other areas in our life that we can just start rotating out for the Black equivalent. And I am so glad when I got my Black therapist, because what I tell you, I don't like. Typically, you know how you talk to other cultures and you have to like translate how that experience, like, why did you, like, I was just like, oh man, after the Sandra Bland situation happened and she came up, like, how did she just turn up dead in the cell? Like, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. A cop pulled behind me like a week later, and I had a full-on panic attack, and they're like, why?
Right.
I just told you, you remember Sandra Bland? I told you.
Remember what happened to Sandra? I just want to give a disclaimer right now to the law enforcement agencies across the nation. If you pull behind me, I'm calling 911 on y'all, and y'all gonna follow me however many miles left in that gas tank, because that's imminent danger in my brain. That's imminent danger.
I'm just like, I'm not going home. Like, that's my thought. Like, I may not go home, and I am just like, It's terrible that that's the life that we live in right now. It's just like, it's terrible. But what we can do, the only thing that we can really do is to better ourselves and be who we authentically are. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm still growing. There's still some things that I mess up on. There's still some things that I don't understand. And so, but I'm willing to have a conversation. I'm willing to learn about other people's perspectives and understand. Like, Latinx is not new to me, but from where I came from, if they were Puerto Rican or Mexican or Nicaraguan, we would have a conversation like, that's the country we're from. And I'm like, yeah, my Mexican friend or my Dominican friend or my Colombian friend. I would call them their country or whatever they're from, and just like, oh yeah, but it was just like a non-issue. The only time it came up is when they would all start exchanging different Spanish words, right? But it wasn't anything. But people outside of that want to all say, well, they're all Hispanic, and it's like, no,
they're not.
And so I thought it was.
And some of those people get offended when you call them Hispanic.
Oh, just like what is it? Just like Japanese people do not want to be called Orientals.
Correct. Yeah.
When I was just like, I said, what? I said, and I would think I was in ninth grade. I was like, people call people Orientals?
Like the rug?
Orientals are a thing. That's just, you're not an inanimate object. And so, but she said that people call them Orientals, and I was just like, that is wow. That's wow. But I've heard
people be described as, oh, she's Oriental, because they didn't. I think in the southern region, at least, I can only tell you what I think. In the southern region, I think that when I heard that, it was because people didn't want to be wrong and call like someone Chinese Japanese or someone Japanese Korean or someone. I think that Oriental was just over there. Not that they made it right.
They could have just said East Asian. They could have just said East Asian. Could have done that, because it's like, but there are also a lot of people who are in India who are considered Asian. And so it's just like, if you're not aware, you know, you could potentially offend someone. But but that's why when I was coming up in high school, I would just ask, you know, hey, what country are you from? Or, you know, or what country are your parents or grandparents from? And we'll talk about it. And it was just a natural part of conversation. That's what it was. It wasn't anything like where I'm assuming anything. But I think that when we start at home and we get our home right, and if everybody just start worrying about themselves, we can get out of this competition comparison thing. Just get off of social media for a second. I mean, follow our stuff, Concrete Blossoms. Like, definitely follow that. But
Take a Space podcast. Yeah. Make sure you follow that. We got Mike and Perkins. Divorce is fun. We got Everything Culture with the A. Yeah. We got a few of them out there. We got a few of them.
Well, just take time, follow them, and then get off of social media. And then
follow the healthy shit. Follow the healthy shit. Because there are plenty of accounts out there by these sisters who, they gonna look bomb in their photos. They gonna get you with the side pose so you can see their small waist and stuff, but they talking about business still, or they're promoting their business shirt or whatever. Right. So I got 2 plugs on your last spiel. So I think it was so important what you said you said something, and I don't remember the specifics, but it made me think about how I coach my students up. It was something about like pretty much coaching people up. And so for me, and I say this very carefully because this is a conversation I've had with multiple students multiple times, and I'm not going to change my messages because I'm an educator, and this is what the Board of Education would rather me tell them. If I have a student, and I have had students come to me and tell me about how they smoke weed or they're having sex. Now, mind you, I teach middle school. With the sex thing, that's a different conversation. But when it comes especially to like the whole like weed thing or the drinking thing, my first question is, why do you do that? And of course, in their head, because of what they've seen, they feel like, Miss, because I be stressed out. Oh, Miss, because this be going on. And it, like, they'll give me these whole stories, right? Now, as an adult, I'm thinking if this were coming from another adult, yes, it's gonna hit you that blunt, on the way home, whatever, right?
Right.
As my students, I never tell my students, you shouldn't be doing that, period. My message is always, you shouldn't be doing that right now. Because when you hit 21 and you got to pay your own bills and you can't pay it this month, weed is not going to help you get away from that stress. Because you've been smoking it since you was in middle school, since I was your teacher. Then what are you going to do? You're going to need something heavier? Because it's not going to relieve your stress anymore. Just with that, I've had more than a literal handful of students come back and tell me how Miss, you right. Like, I ain't smoked in like a month, Miss, and I feel so much better. Oh, Miss, no, I ain't smoked like that. Asked me to smoke, like, just in their stories, you know? But they feel comfortable because I'm not about to give you this boo-boo the fool shit, right?
Yeah.
You can smoke weed, sis, but why you want to do it right now? Because right now, you just get high for what? 30, 40, maybe a couple hours if it's some good weed. When you get 20, is weed gonna make you feel the same way? A lot of my students who've come back to me and said, nah, Miss, I don't smoke no more, or nah, Miss, I'm not doing that no more. When I ask them, how long you been trying to smoke? Some of them usually are like 8th graders. Oh, Miss, just when I got in middle school, it's because I met this person. And it's like, do you feel the same as when you first got high? That's because your body does what it's supposed to do, and you're gonna build tolerances to all these things that you keep putting in right now. You know what I mean? So just changing that narrative in that. It's not always about, you know, you can't start your business because you don't have money. Just don't go jump out there and go buy a building right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, make your business plan first, or get you some resources first. So I think that too, in the Black community, is something I've been trying to change when I talk to people, is that all or nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
Cause me, I don't have any, they don't never come to me telling me about no other crazy ass shit. All I've gotten is weed, thank God. Cause I'm not, if a student came to me and said they was smoking meth that they found, that's one thing, right? But on stuff like that they're gonna easily have access to when they get my age, if I can catch you right now at 15 and then you wait till you're 21, I think I did good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're able to then mature to that stage. Right. And then you mentioned it's starting at the grassroots, and it takes me back to that conversation we were having the other day, where I think me, you, and Mike were all on the same page, and we were trying to explain if I got you on the healthcare, right? Like, I'm a doctor, I'm good at that, I studied whatever. Leah's good at, let's just say, the business part of it. She can make sure that we get our building. She can make sure we do all that. We got another friend, everything. He gonna be good at making sure we got crops to eat every night. This person, you know, that is, I think sometimes what Black people don't realize, that's starting at home. When you build your network with people who have the things that you don't have, we're all here using each other. That's okay. Right. It doesn't always have to be so negative because you're using someone. I'm using Leah right now to get an episode on my fucking podcast. You know what I mean? Yeah. She can use me at any time to do the same thing. But it's like, that's also starting at the grassroots. And I think a lot of times in the Black community, we don't realize that as a whole. Is when we start at the grassroots and make sure that everybody is operating in all the areas that we need. Me and my 10 people that come under me in healthcare, we gonna make sure that everybody's healthy. Leah's gonna make sure that all of us have our separate areas, and all of us have our separate marketing or whatever. Everything is gonna make sure that everybody has dinner and there's enough for everybody. Right. And I think that that's really important too, is making sure, like, when we're building these networks, like, I'm not only talking to people who are doing podcasts, but I'm talking to those people who I want to listen to this. Yo, I'm probably not, unless I'm literally with someone and I'm want to be derogatory, I'm probably not going to use the word female the same. That's okay. You know what I mean? Right. To some people, that's improvement. And for me, I feel like even just that, even with that one conversation, let's just say 2 or 3 people, I don't see the word the same. Like, I don't necessarily agree that it's used derogatorily and that it's like over there with bitch and hoe or whatever. But because it affects other people in my community, what does it hurt me to not, you know what I mean? Like, what does it hurt me to not address people like that? What does it hurt me to change a word or two out of my vocabulary? Because I know that by me not using that now, it's going to give this person that much more respect. And respect goes much further than name it. You know what I'm saying? It goes much further than anything. Because you can be broke, but if you got respect by certain people, you're in all the high places. You don't even need money because people are making sure you're taken care of. You know? So it's just, I think, man, in the Black community, we have so far to go. But again, even in this conversation, it reminds me of how far we've come. We're both in our 30s, our early 30s. You know what I mean? And these are the mindsets that we have. I just get excited thinking about how many younger people may end up stumbling across one of our podcasts one day. Yeah. Especially yours, girl. I want to come through the daggone screen. I was like, where is that number? I don't have my number. First of all, get out my line talking about procrastination. Nobody asked you to blast me like this. First of all, Leah, who asked you to even say that? Okay, who asked you to even talk about that? It was like, but that's the thing. And it's like, that's focusing on yourself though, right? Like, that's something that you go through. You got on your podcast, you talked about it. Now that's something that you have to hold yourself accountable for. And that others can use that podcast like, yo, she right. First of all, nobody asked you. I'm going to do it right now. That's fine. I'm going to just get online right now. Fine. We're going to post right now. That's fine. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's building the Black community. Like, yes. I only known a lot of y'all for right out a month. Yo, I feel like I've been knowing y'all for years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I just told somebody else that I was like, I met them like 3 weeks ago. I think July 17th was the first call I was on. And I had just I probably had 2 or 3 episodes out. No, I think I had 4 episodes out. And I was just like, I don't know these people. I'm going to get on this Zoom. Let me see what it's about. And it was legit, just like we just clicked. And even on Facebook Live, so many people was just like, how long have y'all known each other? And I'm right. Like, I literally met these people a few weeks ago. I just met them.
But that's what happens when you create your own lane and you operate in it. That's what happens whenever you are focused on yourself. For instance, on some of them calls, like, it's so funny because I'll see everything and he's just like, and in my head, I'm not taking it offensively, right? Like, I just like, oh, okay, I'm probably just, man, we could be talking about how these balloons was over here and the flowers was over there. And it's gonna sound like I'm cussing somebody smooth out. If somebody just catch me in the middle, it's gonna be like, oh, wait, fast forward. She's talking bad to somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of just like, but that's how you build that community. And when you truly focus on yourself, when you truly try to create, even just try to create your own lane. Right? Yeah. It happens organically. Yeah. Like, the people that's meant for you, they're going to come in just the right time. They're going to operate how they're supposed to.
Yes. So I think that's so important because it's important because the idea that we have to create we feel like we have to create these day ones. We feel like we have to have people like, just like you said, man, I got friends who still haven't listened to it. I got plenty of people who haven't listened to this podcast, and it's like, I'm not expecting everybody to listen to it. I know whoever needs to listen to it will, and I'm not looking to create day ones. I know that as I start to build, I will start to attract people. And the great thing about the community that we're building, there is space for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's not like I have to, even though conversation got hot Sunday, but it's like, it's not where we have to boss hog or bogart or dominate any aspect of the conversation. There's room for everybody to get their thoughts out. There's room for everybody to state their piece or agree or disagree and still be respected. It's not that you're going to say something and then, like, even that night, oh my gosh, that night that I was just like, I went hard on Dawn. Let me just message her.
So funny. Oh. First of all, I can't wait. That's gonna be on Everything Culture Podcast. Y'all make sure you go subscribe on all platforms. Y'all will hear it. This girl served me every single right in the amendment. First and foremost, I was like, okay. But it was like, yo, and just for the record, for anybody tuning in, like, Leah hit me up like the next day or like a couple of days later, just like, hey, like, I hope I didn't offend you. Like, it was all just fun. And I was like pissed off that she was even apologizing. Like, what? No, keep it coming. Like, what are you talking about? It's so funny. Like, girl, hell no. But that's another thing in the Black community, the assuming positive. Me and you barely known each other a few weeks.
Right.
It would have done me no good to just off the rip be like, oh, she coming for me. Like, I don't like her. I don't fuck with her no more. Now, every podcast I see her on, I'ma just not go on camera. I'ma not say nothing. You know what I'm saying? But that's how most of the Black community is. It's like, why not assume positive? Because even if you didn't mean positive, that shit ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
So if I'm assuming positive, okay. Like, even if you were really trying to come for me, it's like, oh, that's what she was doing? Because I thought it was a joke because I'm assuming positive. You know what I mean? And it's like, so many people have such a hard time doing that. It's like, if I'm somewhere, a lot of times, like just say, for instance, I had quite a few episodes where we talk about supporting Black businesses. And it's kind of just like, oh, well, when you get to the cash register and she has an attitude or whatever, I'm the type of person, I'm going to be like, oh. When I sense that and I'm trying to assume positive, my first thing is not going to be to give you attitude back. It's going to be to, hey, let me bring it to you in a nice way that you coming off. So it's like, hey, are you having a good day today? Oh, because you seem like your day's going a little rough and I just want to check on you. Now, how you decide to move after that is going to tell me your true intention.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if I'm calling to you like, oh, you doing okay? No, well, you seem like you didn't want to be here. Or you seem like you're ready to get off, or some type of joke to let you know, hey, you're coming across very intense.
Right.
Especially when it comes to customer service, but even more when it comes to friends. For instance, I have a friend. So I've been a licensed cosmetologist since I was in high school, and I don't do hair anymore. I hate doing hair, but I'm really good at it. Like, I'm really, really good at it, right? So I have friends that are like, ask me to do their hair, and every now and again, if you catch me on the right day, I might say I'm gonna charge you and do it or some shit like that, right? Well, I had a friend, and this was all through text, and she's like, so, if I get some hair, you'll do me a sew-in. Well, my response in my head was just like, damn, I was really busy that week, first and foremost, but I just didn't know when I could get her hair in that week. I could only do it that weekend because I already had a head schedule. And so my response was, IDK when I could get in a free sew-in and a little confused face. Well, that caused a lot of tension because instead of my friend knowing that I'm 32, I graduated at 17, just turned 17, so I was an early baby at that. You've been knowing me since high school, so you've been knowing me for well over 20 years. Mm-hmm. In that moment, if you feel some type of way because I assume that you wanted your hair done for free just because you my G like that, right? Or if you felt that I was treating you some type of way in that moment as my friend, since I never asked you to do my hair for free, or I could pay you, or I ain't said how to be, whatever it is, right? But instead of assuming positive because I'm your friend and I fucks with you the long way, you internalize it for a week or however long, and then I don't find out till however long later that I was treating you some type of way, and it's like, wait, what? Because in that moment, if you'd addressed it, I could have let you know, no, I only said free because, like, I wouldn't even think to charge you. Like, when I didn't have shit, when I had 34 cents in my bank account since you was making sure I ate, so in my head, I'm just thinking, I'm busy this week, I don't know when I could get in, no, especially a free one. Not that you asked for it to be free, but you as my friend, that's how I was thinking. You know what I mean? So it's like, even in that, it's like, assume positive. Why is it so hard to assume positive?
So I had this conversation with so many people, and I tell people straight up, look, if you sensitive, stay from around me. I have a lot of friends who are introverts, and I don't get it. If you are sensitive, stay from around me. Like, I'm good because I'm an extrovert, and I'll hear you and stuff like that. But emotional people, I have a blind spot. I like a huge blind spot. If I've offended you, and that's why when we were joking and laughing, like that morning, I woke up and I was like,
I don't even know this girl.
It was literally all morning. I was just like, no, she good. She was laughing. She good. She popped in. She was good. But what if she was laughing and really wanted to hurt you? And I'm just like, no. And so it was just like all kinds of anxiety. Like, let me just go ahead and text this girl. The worst thing she can do is be like,
yeah, that was kind of tough, or that was rude.
And I was just like, let me go ahead and reach out.
Look, you lucky you didn't get bitch. That was no money.
I was like, ooh, like I made sure I was like, let me hurry up and message her, let her know, ooh, girl, I apologize. I did not mean anything by it, but but because it's a big blind spot for me, I'm not overly apologetic. If somebody brings something to my attention, like people, I don't know why introverts are attracted to me, but people will come up and they will have a problem for months or years. And I'd be like, yo, what happened? What's going on? Or what occurred? Because you've been funky for a minute. Man, you remember back in 2016 when you said that thing that one time when we was in a car? What?
Like, we could have been cleared this up. As friends, I just feel like we could have been cleared this up.
Oh, what? Okay. Hold on, wait a minute. But
all right, so run that conversation back, because I don't remember that shit, first of all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and I think that because I have male friends, they like to squash stuff. A lot of them like to squash stuff as soon as it happens. So my thing is like, give me a day, because I need to process through my feelings. I don't want to talk to you out of anger. So I've learned to just like hurry up, nip it in the bud. And so, but that's how we've been able to keep it moving. But so if they've ever offended me, I know to address it. But I have never really been overly emotional. So even when like me and my neighbor got into it, and I asked my sister, I had like my sister has she like this girl amazing. So she sees like I'm gonna read you the text messages. I need you to tell me where it went wrong, because we went from
everybody needs those peoples.
Like, right? I was like,
shout out to my alley cat. I love you, alley cat. I said, I need you to read. I need you to listen to these text messages. I'm not gonna say it with any inflection, but I need you to read it, and I need you to listen to it. So I'm reading her the text messages, and she goes, right there where he went on that rant. That's where you went wrong. He took offense to what you said. I said, all I said was okay. She was like, nope, because you responded this way, and he was looking for this, and you got this, and that's where you were. And I was like, ain't that about a biscuit? How? How? In what life? And so that really had, like, having people like her, like, because I have two sisters who are like that. One of my sisters would be like, you know, you messed up, right? That's one of my sisters. One of my sisters would be like, you messed up. Another sister would tell me like, this is how you messed up, and this is probably. And then I have another sister who's like, okay, so let's not go in there guns blazing. Let's probably take it back a little bit and look at how they may feel about you coming in and bogarting an apology. And I'm like, man, forget all that. But I'm glad that I have people who I trust, who are in my network, who know me well enough to be like, so if there is misunderstanding, it's not because I don't care. Mm-hmm. But if you don't bring it up, I said this on my podcast multiple times. If you do not tell me that there is a problem, I am going to make the assumption that we do not have a problem. You have a problem, because I am good. I am sleeping well. I am eating right. I am taking care of my business. If you have a problem, that's on you, honey boo boo. You got to get your life together and know how to do this. But some people are just like, you're just a lot, and we don't know how to approach you because you can seem assertive and you're this and that. And it's like, it's like, okay, so why do you want to be friends with me? Why do you want to be friends still? Confrontation is necessary. It is.
We have to, like, I said it before, and I have a people pleasing episode that actually just dropped today. And if you listen to it in that episode, I explained why, even though I'm a debater, I love arguing for the sport of it. But in any real relationship, if you are not passionate about something, and it's not, or if you don't, or if we never have a disagreement, I'm not saying we have to argue all the time, but if you don't see things from a different worldview, I'm gonna think that you're a yes person, and you just want to go along to get along, and I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, I can't be your friend, really. Like, You can be around, but you can't get close because you don't have a backbone to say, I don't agree with X.
Yeah.
I mean, and I just met y'all, and we've had disagreements and different perspectives, whether it be music, whether it be social, political, economical, like whatever. We have disagreements, but it's respect.
Like
and we
tough ass disagreements too. We've had some tough ass disagreements, and it's just like, again, it's like you said, I hear what you're saying, I still disagree though, and this is why. Or I still just disagree. I don't see it from that perspective.
Right.
It's just still respectable.
Doesn't connect with me. I don't know.
One thing I can appreciate though is even through the midst of confrontation, later in my life, I've been able to meet those people who have such different perspectives on some of the more sensitive topics. But those are the people I'm closest to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like those are the people who give me the most respectful. I see where you're coming from. The most respectful. Oh, you're not yelling at me. You're not cussing at me. But you're passionate about what you're talking about. So even if I don't see it from that way, I don't give a fuck how you said it. Because I can say, the sky's motherfucking blue, and I don't give a fuck what nobody else say about it. Then I can also say,
like, my pearls, I don't understand why she's cussing at me and da-da-da. It's like, no, she's passionate about the sky being blue.
I'm just passionate about this. I could just as easy way say, so I just really want you to understand that the sky is blue, and even if you disagree with me, the sky is still going to be blue. That's the same as me telling you the sky is blue, motherfucker, and I don't give a fuck what you're saying. Now, granted, that's a very harsh way of saying it, right? But you understand. It's like, and that's why the title of this episode has since changed to Measuring Up. Because I think that we touched on a lot of different levels that we need to start back at the grassroots, and we need to measure it up before we start trying to put the cake in the oven, right? Yeah. But originally it was called Don't Say Fuck, because people get so offended, and I love to curse. I don't know why. I feel like it's very unladylike and all that good shit. But I just love cursing, right? It gives such emphasis to what the fuck you're saying, right? Like, cursing gives such emphasis. I'm a teacher, so it's a lot of times that I can't curse through most of at least 180 to 190 of my days. For 8 hours of each of those days, I can't even say no curse words. But it's like, if I'm talking to my homegirl just because we don't agree on something right now, it's like, if I am saying curse words, now calling someone a derogatory name is very different from using cursing in a conversation. Let's be clear about that, right? Yes. So like if me and you were disagreeing about something, I'd be like, all right, you one of them females. I wouldn't say no shit like that, because that's like a clear, oh no, you're trying to disrespect me at this point. Like you're intentional, and you don't do that to friends, right? But if me and you cool, I'd be like, Leah, that shit don't make no goddamn sense. Like you wouldn't again like clutch all 20 of your goddamn bros and be like, what? Like she just went off on me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, she just think I don't make no fucking sense, and that's okay, because I'm still standing on what I said. I don't like the word female. And I think that's in my head. It's like, that goes back to the assuming positive. Sis, we disagreeing on something right now, and I said the word shit, damn, fuck, whatever, motherfucker, but I didn't call you any of those things. I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just standing my ground, and that's how I chose to give my ground emphasis. You know what I mean? It's like, man, these things called friends nowadays, we're gonna have a whole. Well,
but that's why your audience is important. Like, I can be one, like, because I have siblings and friends who are sensitive, and even though I may feel passionate, like what they're saying or thinking, and I may not agree with it, and I will passionately disagree. That passion comes across as it feels. They say they feel like they're being patronized or belittled because I'm very passionate in what I'm feeling or what I'm saying. And it's like, I'm not, but you understand, it's the subject. It's not you that I'm talking down to.
And so I'm going to text Leah behind the scenes and be like, can you please stop trying to live my life? It's nice shit out here.
it's important to know your audience so that when I'm talking to these people, I know that, okay, take a breath, because they're going to take this as you coming for them and not their thinking, you coming for them and not their argument. Some people know that, like, when I'm talking to you and I'm like, you know, that ain't what are you talking about? I'm not calling you stupid.
Right.
I'm not calling you ignorant or inadequate. But some people will say, if you question them, they feel like, I'm not stupid. I'm not this. And it's like, I never said any of those things. I'm just questioning, what is it that you need? Make it make sense to me. And so that's why it's important to know your audience and know who you're talking to and how to get your message across to them.
So, for instance, that's good. I like that, because the other day I was chilling with a couple of friends of mine, and here recently, since I started the podcast, I've been trying to capture more organic conversations, just one-off, so that way have content and have good quotes and things like that to just throw in episodes, you know, sporadically, stuff like that. And I had asked a friend of mine, and this is a whole nother episode, but I asked a friend of mine, or two friends of mine, the question posed was, so, do y'all think Jeffrey Epstein and R. Kelly did the same thing? And the response from my female friend that was with me was, well, I don't know. I'm not answering that question, but all the girls knew what they were doing. It threw me way, I'm talking about it, and my heart started racing. I was in that moment, I was livid. Steam was coming out of my ears. I was pissed at that answer.
Wow.
I was pissed at that answer. So, again, I got the audio clip and everything, because I was like, hold up, I gotta record this. Hold on. I want everybody to know they're being recorded, because I have to have this on record. So as she's explaining and everything, you keep hearing me in the recording, which in the episode, I would love for you to be on it. In the episode, I'm just steadily asking her, I'm like, but the question at hand is about two grown-ass men who both did essentially the same thing, manipulated underage minors for their sexual pleasure. That's the question at hand. For whatever reason, you are evading that question, but your choice of dialogue has to do with putting accountability on at that time what would have been considered minors. And I was just livid. But in the recording,
children. I don't know why they keep calling them underage women. They're children.
They're children. Exactly.
They're children.
They're kids. They're fucking kids. Not just kids, they're fucking kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, but again, it's like you said, you have to know your audience. And I could hear, and so I've listened to it a couple of times on the playback, and it was like, I wanted to make sure I wasn't coming at her a certain type of way, even though I was with it. Like, I was pissed at her, because number one, you a woman, so how dare you? First of all, me being a sexual assault survivor.
Listen,
I feel like, how dare you? First of all, especially if the question at hand, like if I was just talking about it in general, that would be one thing. The conversation can go wherever. The single question at hand, though, is if you think that this grown ass man and this grown ass man did the same thing with these children, right? Like, that's the question. So the fact that you put any accountability, I don't give a fuck what nobody say. The fact that you put any accountability on anybody else besides the two human beings as adults who were conveying this behavior, right. I have an issue with it. Period, point blank, that's just me. And I don't know if me being a sexual assault survivor has to do with it as well, but I have an issue because I know what I deal with within myself. And I was a grown-ass woman when that shit happened. I was 28 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was 28 when it happened to me.
I was a kid. I was like 8.
So again, I mean, imagine now having to hear somebody, I don't know any of these young women who are now young women. You know what I'm saying? I don't know these young women now. But I'm offended that you would even dare say that they knew what they were doing when they were being manipulated or taken advantage of or whatever you have it. So it's just like, even listening back to that is just kind of like, you have to know your audience, because again, I'm trying my best not to ask her friend in a personal setting, not on a recording time, just one off. I don't want my audio to come like, hold up, sis, like, you really got me fucked up in this conversation right now. You know what I mean? Because that's really how I felt. Like, yo, first of all, so I had to start pulling from other things. So it was like, so that's interesting for me why your choice of dialogue is focused more on the girls than it is about who I asked the question about, and you a school counselor. Right. So if some girls come to you and tell you that their friends asked them to go to these high school boys' house, and then one of the girls got took in the back room by this boy, and he did whatever, she knew it wasn't right, she was a virgin at the time, but then she still went back and hung with the boy, would you then have a conversation with her about how she's this old and how she should know this and how she, you know what I mean? Like, this is disturbing for me because the question is this, but your choice of dialogue has nothing. It's just, knowing your audience is important.
And I think it goes back to as well, when you know your audience, you have to know like what her background is. And a lot of women, especially us, are told that it's our job, especially in the church, wear covered up clothes, make sure that your hair is covered, make sure you're not too sexy, make sure you're not this, don't show your body lines, don't be fit. Oh, teacher made this, and oh my gosh, that, and why are you so sexy as a Black woman? You shouldn't be doing these things. It's your fault if men are cheating. And we're so quick to blame Alicia Keys, but nobody's looking at us with speech like, why you leave your wife like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, in such a public way. It's always like, well, her voice was never right ever since she took that man from his wife. And it's like, you can't, it's always put on the women, or in this case, the girls. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and R. Kelly made statements like, yo, the girl's dad dropped her off. And it's just like but people are so, but they're just, look, just because we should be on the same side doesn't mean that we will be. And so I don't think that it's necessary, or it's interesting to entertain those conversations. But I have learned when things get me frustrated in that aspect of, we're not going to see eye to eye on this, we're going to be moving on. We're just going to be moving on, because there's nothing that you can say to make it okay to say that it was the fault of these children who can't drive, can't buy alcohol, who can't vote, who can't sign a contract, who can't get a tattoo, can't get a piercing. They cannot make adult decisions, but yet it's still, they know what they want sexually from a grown man. You can't make that make sense to me. So we will be moving on. We did very quickly, because again, once I start pulling out that, but the question is this, sis, like, you keep telling me how these girls knew what they were doing, and how, well, when I was in high school or when I was in middle school, if somebody told me, hey, all you got to do is get this old guy a massage, I'm already knowing something is wrong. No. That's an issue. That's an issue that you even think like that, because again, this was a personal. But did she do it? That's the question, because that sounds like a mentality of someone who's been involved in that. And because for whatever reason, we relive our traumas as sexual fantasies. Don't know why, but we do. We relive our traumas as sexual fantasies. And when we turn our trauma to sexual fantasy, it makes it so that we continue to see it as something that was bad, but now should bring us pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And then we start to see life that way, where we can justify these young girls being taken advantage of, these young girls, losing who they are. Like, you listen, yeah. So it's it's difficult to hear sometimes. It's difficult to be amongst the conversation, but there's always going to be someone who does not want to benefit the movement. And that's why when Mike was like, everybody can't go, it's true. Everybody can't go. Not everybody's for us. A lot of people are interested in victim blaming. A lot of people are interested in wanting to see other people suffer because they've suffered, because hurt people, and that's just what we do. But once you learn how to heal, once you learn how to do better, once you learn how to be more than what you are, then it becomes a sense of, I have a sense of duty to be a mentor at the very least. That's the very minimum that I can do after I have gotten myself together, is to mentor either people. Like, I know I can't necessarily help kids because I did my time as a teacher. I did my time. I'm good. But other adults and other people who are coming up need help. Yes, let me go ahead and lend a hand. Let me let you know. I'll send you some books to read. I'll let you know what some titles are. I know some things that can help you. And and I can give you my whole recipe, but the sauce is never going to taste the same because you're not me. But I can definitely do my best to make sure that you are well equipped to at least know where to look for the information.
I can give you your pots. I can give you all the utensils, and I can even give you the stove to cook on. But what you put in that pot, that's what's up to you, my Black community. That's up to you. You got to make your own decisions. You got to make sure that what you're putting in that pot, remember, that pot is on your stove. Right. That pot is what you're going to have to eat and serve up at the end of the night to yourself and to your closest network. So it may not taste like mine, what you think tastes so good, because of what you see on social media, because of what you may hear on my podcast, because of what you may see on TV with these, TV shows and Love and Hip Hops and Basketball Wives. You may think that sauce is real good, but remember, you got to make your own sauce. You got to eat dinner tonight. Yeah, you can't. You are. What I eat don't make you shit.
Yeah.
So yes. But when are you doing your next episode? I gotta listen to your people pleasers for today. You yes. Shout out to Taking Up Space Podcast. Y'all go listen to their latest episode. It is called People Pleasing, and it is her and a co-host, Christina, that are on. Y'all make sure y'all check that out on all platforms.
Yes, YouTube. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube. It's the link is in every Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram bio. You can find the link very easily. And you
can also find the link in our description below, wherever platform you're listening on. And when we record, I think we're recording. So we have this new, and y'all getting an exclusive. I don't know when this is dropping, but this is an exclusive. So we are, like I said, I'm a debater at heart, and I am part of creating Champions of Discourse, championsofdiscourse.com. A part of creating Champions of Discourse, I really want to teach people how to talk. And a part of teaching people how to talk is learning how to think critically. And so there's a new show that I've created that we're working on called Debate This. And it's a show to teach structured debate and learning how to attack arguments and not people. And it is coming out August 20th. Okay. So I am super, this is my passion project. This is something I'm just like, this is what I want to do. I've always wanted to be the director of a debate league. And this is like the closest I've gotten to it thus far. But I'm hoping that at the very least, people will want to tune in to learn some arguments, to learn how to, when people want to be evasive and talk about whataboutism, to talk about different things. Like, no. This is how you keep the main thing. This is how you argue against false dichotomies and false equivalencies. This is how you call out different fallacies. This is how, and these are all terms in the world of rhetoric and how we talk to each other and how we communicate. But we do try to, make it fun, make it interactive, so that, when you come in and see the stuff that's going on, you can communicate better with people, and your confrontations won't be knock them down, drag them out fights, but they'll be about the argument because of what you said, not necessarily how you said it or why, but the words that you use meant XYZ to me. So, okay, yeah. Debate this. First of all, Concrete Possum and Don the Dog will be signing up, because that in itself is the sole personal reason that propelled me and really, honestly, just exaggerated the need for me to have something like Concrete and Blossom. So absolutely, y'all make sure you check out my girl Leah on Debate This August 20th. We will be getting all types of exclusive. Don't worry, y'all know I'm secret with the plugs. We're gonna be getting all types of exclusives, and we will definitely make sure we plug y'all in on that as well with all her links and all that good stuff.
Yes. Just make sure if you log into, if you subscribe to the YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell so that every time an episode drops and where we start Debate This, it will be on the same channel so that you're ahead of the game. That's all it is. Yeah.
Get it, girl.
So listen, listeners, thank you for tuning in to Concrete and Blossom Podcast, episode 11, where we talk about clutching and pearls. Be sure to leave feedback and comments. Subscribe, follow, and like us on all social media and listening platforms at Concrete and Blossom Podcast. Check out the description below for links to all sites associated with today's host.
Don the Doll delivers.